to the Captain Spot. I'm your host, Justin Freeman, 6 foot 1 inches, 274 pounds, fantasy knowledge. And it's week 9, guys, Thursday night football. This is a game that really looked like it wasn't even going to happen throughout the course of this week. One of the more unique slates we have ever come across in terms of player availability and pricing over on DraftKings and FanDuel. This is the game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. COVID, injuries, we've got it all right here. We've got a total that's plummeting. The Packers spread is rising. Should be a really interesting one for us to talk about. Quick reminder, make sure that you are liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing to this show wherever you can get it. YouTube.com/the CPT Spot. We're available on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting your podcast, and the Monday Show over on the Mayo Media Network. So, why don't we hop into the slate where, guys, we're not even going to get into simulations today because, as you'll notice throughout our conversation, there's just no point. There are so many possibilities that even now as we record this Thursday morning, we still don't know about what's going to happen Thursday night. Here's what we do know is in regards to the existing injury report. We are down to bare bones possibilities over on the San Francisco side of the football. At quarterback, no Jimmy Garoppolo in this game. We'll be getting Nick Mullins under center for the 49ers. At running back, no Raheem Mostert, no Tevin Coleman. We'll be getting some two-man committee of JaMycal Hasty, plus Jerick McKinnon, a little bit of Kyle Juszczyk tossed in there at the fullback position. And then at tight end, no George Kittle. Kittle out, likely to be placed on injured reserve here later today. We will be getting, we'll be getting Ross Dwelley, Charlie Warner, but we may also be getting Jordan Reed back. Jordan Reed is currently on injured reserve. He will be coming off injured reserve today if the team activates him ahead of this game, and the team needs playmakers. So we're down to a pretty thin crew already. On top of that, no Deebo Samuel, no Brandon Ayuk, no Kendrick Bourne at receiver for the 49ers. It's unbelievable what the skill group looks like now for San Francisco. It's really it's a little bit embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. So we'll be seeing Trent Taylor and Richie James theoretically operating as the top two guys. Richie James, another guy, questionable heading into this game. So even Richie James, who may be the team's number one receiver, not coming in at full health. So he did get in limited practices on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Seems like he'll be fine and good to go. But even Richie James, we can't count on him being out there. He did have an ankle injury. So who does that even leave on the San Francisco side? Well, maybe we get, a little bit of Jordan Reed off the activation. But overall, we're talking about, some of these number 3 through 5 receivers getting called up from the practice squad. That's River Craycraft, Kevin White. Remember Kevin White? We're down to basically no options there for the 49ers. Chris Finke is another one there at the wide receiver position on the practice squad. So they could potentially have all 3 of those practice squad guys called up in addition to Richie James and Trent Taylor. It's going to be a S show over there for the 49ers on that side of the football. We can talk a little bit about pricing there for the 49ers, but ultimately pricing does not matter on this slate. Pricing will not matter. I can't think of a better slate for you to leave like $5,000 on the table than this slate right here. If you are spending max cap on this slate, I think you're just theoretically approaching Showdown incorrectly at a base level. At least in terms of large field GPPs, which I know is what most of you guys are interested in. So, like I said, the pricing, not a problem. We'll talk a little bit about the running back rotation there for the 49ers a little bit, where it was mostly JaMycal Hasty last week. It looked like they wanted to get Tevin Coleman involved early before Tevin Coleman went out with his injury. But Jermichael Hasty ended up handling 55% of the team's rushes. 18% went to the quarterback position, so keep in mind that number is inflated if you're looking at just running backs. 55% for Hasty, 14% for Coleman, 14% for McKinnon. So it seems clear that they just don't want to use McKinnon as this featured back, like we did see in week 4 where he handled 70% of the team rushes. It's just been nowhere close to that ever since. So I do think Jermichael Hasty operates as the lead back. I think we can project more targets going forward for Jerick McKinnon, who's still out there on the field aplenty. He's out there just as much as Hasty was last week, 2% fewer snaps for McKinnon. And the week before that, 56% of the team snaps out there for McKinnon. And we think this game could get ugly. The spread indicates that the Packers are favored by over a touchdown in this game. So I think you could justify playing Jerick McKinnon over Jermichael Hasty if you think that we're talking about garbage time PPR points. But the Packers' run defense leaves a lot to be desired. That's a great smash spot for Hasty and or McKinnon. But overall, guys, this is going to be a slate where you have to make a lot of your own decisions for sure. So let's talk about that receiver position. What will that look like? Obviously, no Ayuk, no Bourne, no Debo. So missing the best 3 receivers on that team. Trent Taylor played 50% of the team's snaps last week. The team cut Dante Pettis. Despite being desperate for wide receivers, they don't want Pettis. They probably hoped they could get something for him at the trade deadline. Nobody offered anything. They're done. So Trent Taylor, 50% of the team snaps last week. Richie James obviously did not play last week. Those 2 guys, I think we can project, reasonable target share moving forward. And then what to expect with Kevin White, River Craycraft, and the return of Hinkie? I don't know, man. I think River Craycraft was the guy who was active last week. They knew they were playing without Debo Samuel, so they got to call one of those guys up, and that was Craycraft. So maybe he goes in and is the most likely guy to be added to the roster, but I'm just guessing. Everybody's guess is as good as mine at this point. That what I'd say will tell the story is check out those inactives 90 minutes before lock. See how many guys get activated from the practice squad in the middle of the afternoon today. And that'll cover it, I think, here for the San Francisco side of the football. You're probably going to want to be a bit more exposed over on the Green Bay side where there's a lot of up in the air there as well. But we know that we can project with some degree of confidence where the targets in that offense are going to go. Obviously, we have Aaron Rodgers. He's priced at $11K this week. I think he's a smash play. You could justify a little bit of him in the captain spot if you wanted to, but mostly he's just going to be a core flex option. Your better captain spot option is going to be Devontae Adams at 12.4 or one of the running backs here. Obviously, the Packers are playing without their top 3 running backs here this week. No Aaron Jones, no Jamal Williams, no A.J. Dillon. Now, I should say Aaron Jones not completely dead yet. Is still listed questionable, still could play this week if necessary. Keep an eye out. He's a guy that we want to make sure we can rule out before this game starts. If he plays, I think Aaron Jones absolutely has to be in your lineup. If he doesn't play is where it gets interesting trying to break down the difference between Dexter Williams and Tyler Ervin. Dexter Williams has been primarily a practice squad type player. He was called up in week 7. Did not play in week 8 as Tyler Ervin was called up instead of him. The team would prefer, all things created equal, if they get to dress all their running backs, they'd prefer to have Tyler Ervin active on game day due to his special teams role. And the fact that he primarily lines up as a wide receiver gives him a lot more versatility. We don't see Tyler Ervin lined up in a true running back position very frequently. Lines up in the slot a ton. So Dexter Williams, more of a true running back. He would be the guy I expect to handle the rushing workload in this game. Tyler Ervin, think of him more of a James White style third down back for the Packers as they operate without Aaron Jones tonight. At the tight end position, should be at full strength. Robert Tonyan, Mercedes Lewis, Jay Sternberger, all ready to rock and roll. All 3 of those guys played last week. We've seen a dip in targets for Tunyon. I guess we're supposed to say Tunyon now. whatever. Tanya, never since the return of Devontae Adams has not been good for him. He had been soaking up targets without him. So you really got three guys there that are options. Mercedes Lewis probably gets a lot more work than people realize. He can probably count on about 3 targets tonight for Mercedes Lewis. And then at the receiver position, obviously everything funnels through Devontae Adams. Everybody else is just playing for second place. We may get the return of Allen Lazard coming off injured reserve this week. Lazard would cost you $7,400 if he's available to go. So we have a couple guys, Allen Lazard and Jordan Reed on the other side, to keep an eye on to see if those guys can get elevated off of injured reserve in time to play in tonight's game. So I can't think of a more important slate for us to make sure that we are up on inactives, up on the active roster, and leaving tons of salary on the table. I've mentioned so many ifs and thens so far. You can see why the exercise of laying out simulations is just dust at this point. You can't do it. I mean, it would be more harmful than good. So hopefully everybody has the information that you need to succeed here in this Week 8 Thursday night showdown. Everybody's looking for a little bit of respite from everything else that's going on in the country. So hopefully that you can watch some really terrible football. This guarantees to be just a horrific game with like literal fourth string and practice squad players lining up. So I hope you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you here soon.